have a
What?
black thumb.
You don't you don't
I'm
you
not
don't engage.
I'm not consistent. Even when I have engaged, I've killed them.
Maybe they can sense your insincerity.
I think they sense that my attention is varied and easily distracted. And so they're like, this one's not here for us. I mean,
Yeah.
I've killed cacti.
Oh, that's quite hard to do, isn't it?
I've killed spider plants.
Lack of love.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to KTVG Studio. Today, we have the exciting world of trees, especially in urban areas, to discuss. Katie and I were having a side conversation. I don't even know where it came from. But I was talking about how my allergies when I lived in New York City were a lot worse, even though right now I actually live butting up against more trees. And what I had heard was that New York City at one point had planted way more what we would term male trees. So lots of pollen, but they did not plant their counterparts. So there was no like nuts or fruits or whatever being produced. Um, I'd also spent time in Madrid in the summer of 2024. And in Madrid, one of the things I noticed that there was fruit. Like you had fruit falling from trees in the city. So we're like, that's an interesting anecdote, but is it true? So we decided to do a little bit more research. I went a little bit more on the side of just looking at what urban centers are deemed to have done a fairly good job of planting trees and which ones maybe are still suffering. And one of the main reasons is that, look, trees help clean our air, provide oxygen for us, provide shade, and help reduce temperatures. So there is so much evidence as to why planting trees is actually helpful to us humans, especially in urban areas. So this is where this initially stemmed from. But I was just hearing from Katie that she has gone down a number of different avenues. So I'm kind of excited because I get to
Surprise!
learn from her. Um, she likes anything she can really dig into and
Yeah,
research.
I
So,
I did dig.
okay. Would you like to start out with one of those things, or do you want me to talk about what I discovered on the
Let's
issue
start
of
with
male trees?
you. Let's start with you because you can anchor us because from your anchor, I can go many
Deeper.
directions.
Okay. So, one of the things we did discover was that, yeah, there's a little bit to that male tree thing, but that's not really what amps up the allergies. It actually has to do with the type of trees that are planted because some trees tend to create more allergic reaction in humans than others. So even though like I'm butting up against way more trees now, the type of trees I'm near, I guess don't seem to be the ones that exacerbate my allergies as compared to the type of trees that I was near when I was in New York City. So the male tree thing is sort of true, they said, but not quite. It's not the full story on all of this. And New York City is actually in the United States and the continent of North America, one of the cities that has done a better job than a lot of other cities in terms of their tree cover, in terms of maintaining it, in terms of continuing it, and in terms of, I guess, acknowledging or supporting the fact that it's helpful for the humans that live there. So, in looking at that, I have to refer to my handy dandy chart. Best examples, the best one in North America is actually Toronto. And I
Oh,
do have to say, I've only been to Toronto, I think, in the late fall. I think it was a long time. It was quite a few years ago. Lovely, lovely city. New York City. So the best example in North America,
mm,
excluding New York City,
mm-hmm.
is Toronto. In South America, it's Curitiba, Brazil. So strong
Mm.
planting. They have strong cities with strong planting promise, but weak survival and care. So that's the other thing about it is some cities are really good at planting the trees, but may not have a process in place, whether that is inviting the people that live in the city to take care of the trees or having a system that the trees are taken care of. And Toronto fell under that a bit as well. That it did not have a long-term maintenance program.
Yep.
Okay. In Europe, Madrid is actually
Hmm.
the city that has the densest planting. What's fascinating is I was there during the time that it was past pollen season, because they have a dense planting of highly allergic street trees without enough diversity. But they're a good city in terms of tree planting. In Africa, it's Kigali, Rwanda. And what I
Mhm.
love that I keep hearing over and over again is Rwanda keeps coming up on best of lists. And it's one of those countries that has a lot of women in power, which
Mhm.
I find fascinating. They, again, most urban centers often suffer from this maintenance. So they have unequal tree care and there's low investment in some neighborhoods compared to others. And then in Asia, it's Singapore. Now, I've never been to, have you been to Singapore, Katie?
Nope. Just the airport.
Okay. Wandy's been to Singapore. My nephew Marcos has been to Singapore, but he was, I think, 7 at the time. Um, Tree planting that is not matched with water care or species fit.
Oh,
So
yes, that's a
again,
big problem.
what we're looking at is there is a lot of attention paid to planting the trees, but I'm thinking we may need some arborist involved here for like, what is the tree care? And is the particular tree that's being planted appropriate for the place where it's being planted? And then Oceania, it's actually Melbourne, Australia. You've been to Melbourne, right?
Many times. Yep.
Okay. They have urban planting that increases allergen exposure when species are poorly chosen, is what it says about it. But still, I love the fact that you have these cities that are looking at it, that are doing it, that are planting the trees. I don't think we've cracked the nut on, I guess, pun intended, on making sure that we're doing it in such a way that it behooves the ecosystem. So, like,
Yes.
considering what are high allergens and which ones aren't. Now, I'm going to give us the flip side of this, which is cities that um, have a failure pattern. So even though I
Mm.
mentioned areas where each of those other cities needed additional help, these are cities that are not necessarily having the best planting pattern. So Chicago in the United States, um, their planting is very gentrification linked. So there's
Mhm.
uneven tree stress and neighborhood disparities. And this particular list was a little bit more focused on the United States. So we're looking at, so another one is Durham, North Carolina. It
Oh,
has a
yeah.
similar pattern to Chicago, where you have the whole gentrification and uneven neighborhoods, uneven tree stress and inequality tied to neighborhood change.
Yes.
Sacramento. I have been to Sacramento. The place I'd been to in Sacramento had very old trees, but I did see other parts of the city that had a dearth. Like, I had just come up from Bakersfield in the Central
Mhm.
Valley, which is very hot and lacking trees. Their water gets used to grow things, but not trees. So it was really surprising to see how disseparate the tree planting was in Sacramento. Didn't spend a lot of time there, like max 24 hours, but it was noticeable. San Francisco. Now, I haven't
Hmm.
been to San Francisco since 2008, maybe? Better than Sacramento overall, but still used as a comparison case showing that survival depends heavily on maintenance and stewardship. So that's the other thing about what I'm understanding over and over again is that trees outside of maybe the natural, it's growing in a forest kind of thing. And even there in our modern society, I think that there's a certain amount of stewardship that needs to happen. I was talking to somebody online who was actually cutting trees for like wood and paper and all the other things it gets used for.
Mhm.
And he was talking about how that when they cut, they also plant.
Mhm.
So I thought that was interesting. And that was up in British Columbia. Louisville, low
Kentucky?
participation. Huh? What was that?
Kentucky?
Yes, my birth state, Louisville, Kentucky. They have low participation and acceptance in low, I don't know what SES stands for in this case, neighborhoods, making planting campaigns harder.
Socioeconomic
Stressed?
something? Something?
Yeah, that makes sense. So there's not a lot of equality there. Phoenix, I'm not at all surprised about Phoenix, though. I always think of
Mm,
Phoenix as being somewhat very arid and desert-like.
yeah, it's in the middle of a desert.
Yeah, but it has a very low, I mean, there are desert, I guess they're not trees, they'd be more like desert shrubs, right?
Yeah.
Very low canopy relative to heat burden, meaning the city is trying to catch up from an under canopied baseline. So it sounds like they're trying. They just have a longer
Mm,
stretch to go. Another one in Arizona, Tempe, same, very similar to Phoenix. Now, this one I was surprised by because I actually go here periodically, New Haven, Connecticut.
yeah, that's near
It's,
you. Sort of.
yeah, it is near. And I would say most of Connecticut has a decent canopy. It's not Western Washington, but for the Northeast, I think of it as a place that has a decent canopy. I'm wrong. Anyways, New Haven is cited in urban forestry discussions where leaders warn that planting without caring for existing forests misses the point. So, this is the case where you
Yes.
have some that exist, you're planting more, but you're not taking care of either. So, how does that ultimately help you? So, I think that for me, in this was again, my focus was a little bit more on this allergy thing, but what I came away
Mm,
with was a little bit more about our need to plan for its care, for the care of our tree canopy. Coming from an energy healing perspective, uh, I always enjoy sort of, you could call it communing with the trees, talking to the trees, being present with them, whatever works for you. But I distinctly remember when I first moved to the city and I would walk home, it was along a walk where they had planted new baby trees. And at the same time, on the other side, you had bigger trees going on. And I would just have these lovely moments that was kind of like a demarcation between having gotten off the subway and walking to my place of an opportunity to calm and almost de-stress. Like I think a lot of people can relate to the fact that New York City has its stressors. It moves at a faster pace. But I lived in Forest Hills and there was a presence of trees that just made it a calming neighborhood in a way that some other neighborhoods are not. In fact, there were two cherry trees that still to this day sit in front of the building that I moved into. And when I first went to look at the place, there were two things that made it like, oh, this is going to be mine. One was the two cherry trees, because when we lived in Japan, we lived in front of like, it wasn't a full orchard, but like I would say a good 10 or 20 cherry trees. And I used to play underneath the cherry trees. So that felt very sort of coming back to childhood and home. And the other thing is a lot of forest gardens is predicated on like an old English village. But to me, when I looked
mhm.
out the window, it reminded me of looking out the window in our apartment in Germany. It had a similar look to it and vibe. Um, so trees actually can provide peace and grounding, and they've actually found that the trees support each other and connect underground, and communicate. So they're important for our oxygen, they're important for our health, but they also are important for our energetic field, for us being able to feel connected to the world and be able to find a relaxing point. Okay, that is my research aspect on this a bit. I'm really looking forward to hearing what Katie has to tell us about it.
So, thank you for your anchor because everything you mentioned, I basically deep dived into everything that you just said, and then a little bit extra. So,
Okay.
you're totally right. Like the research I did on the urban tree planting, absolutely. There, I think it said that there was a like a UN report came out in 2019. It was based on this scientist who had said, we, you know, you need to plant trees. There's lots of benefits to it, and everyone went crazy. Oh my god, we gotta plant trees everywhere. All these cities, they all have these targets, and they started planting like crazy, but exactly like you said, they kinda missed the boat a little bit on the implementation. So, there's, uh you need to have a diverse array of trees. For example, also, Bangkok had this plant a million or a billion trees thing, and they reached their target for 2024, but the problem is they picked non-native trees. So that was one problem. The second problem is they didn't plant saplings, they planted seeds. So they gotta wait 20 years for these things to become an actual canopy and have an effect. So, there's a lot of issues with the way things are being implemented that people are realizing. And just like you said, I looked at it also from a social justice, social equity lens. When you're planning, where do you plant the trees? So there's all these AIs come in now. There's all these tools to help, urban planners figure out where to put. The problem is there's inequity in the way, just like you said. So the lower income neighborhoods, they've got a lot of parking lots, but they don't have a lot of trees. It's going to the more affluent neighborhoods.
And I don't know
Um,
if AI will fix that because AI is
no,
still
you can't.
programmed by the same people who ultimately have made the decisions as to wealthier get something, lower income doesn't.
AI is only as good as the data that's coming into it. So there was a study that came out of Austin, Texas in 2025, so last year, and they compared a few of these equity mapping tools, and they used a particular area in Austin to see what, like, 5 of these tools would say where to plant the trees. And even though they all picked the same district, where in the district it was different. And that proved that, I mean, obviously, I would hope you don't rely on AI to do all your planning for you. But if you're going to use a tool, which is probably helpful, you do need community involvement because that is a critical element of any kind of urban planning. And also to use more than one tool because you can't just rely on one thing telling you something because you're going to end up with this unequal distribution of trees. And obviously trees are great to plant in urban settings because they decrease the urban heat index by 50%. I mean, that's pretty
That's
amazing.
huge, especially when you
Yeah.
consider how much, like, all these, I don't know what I'm blanking on what they're called, but AI uses these electronic centers to, like, crunch all this information
Mm.
that require cooling. Well,
Yeah,
if you
those data centers. Yeah.
data centers, that's what it is. But if
Yeah,
you are requiring
controversial.
cooling for that in addition, and then again, having lived 22 years in New York City, when all those air conditioners are going at the same time, that's a lot of heat escaping out
Mhm.
into the atmosphere.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we need the trees, but I just want to reinforce what you're talking about in terms of community involvement and not
Mhm.
relying on just an AI tool. And I just want to say the other aspect of that is I'll use New York City as an example just because I'm very familiar with it. But when people have long commutes and you're looking for them to participate on a community level, these people a lot of times are just trying to pay rent, have food, and maybe pay some medical bills. Like
Mm.
they're lucky if they get to do something that's entertaining. So when you're
Mhm.
asking them to do another step of
Yeah.
participating in your plan, and you're figuring, oh, they didn't participate, so they're not interested, they don't care. I think that we need to have a huge caution about that because people
Mm.
who are existing at a survival level don't have the bandwidth
Yeah. True.
sometimes in order to consider the other aspect. I'm not saying everybody who's existing at that level will not. I'm just saying a lot of people will not
Mhm.
have that bandwidth. When you're just trying
Yeah.
to survive, you want me to go to what? You want me to talk to who? No, I got no time for that, you know? So, I just would love for those who are out there planning these things to consider the fact that if you go, it's kind of like if you build it, they will come.
Mhm.
If you plant it, you will reduce the heat index in that area, which might reduce the cost of cooling that
Yep.
area, which might
Yep.
make it easier for people to live, which might give them just a scotch more bandwidth to communicate with you about what else they need.
Yep. So another aspect that I found really interesting, obviously, which you touched upon as well at the end, was the health. Well, it's well-being and health benefits of trees. So I sort of deep dived into this thing.
Yeah.
So obviously, Japan has a forest bathing tradition. And they did a study in 2008 of it wasn't a huge study, but they did like a control, and then they had these students, university students, go out. They dumped them out in the forest for a period of time, and then for a while, like regularly, and measured their cortisol levels and all these other biochemical things. And they found that their cortisol lowered and their blood pressure lowered. And trees emit something called phy- phytoncides. And you can smell it. It's sometimes the smell, like the resiny smell emitted from the trees, and that increases your no-kill cells, NK cells, so it reduces your cortisol and calms your nervous system. So that's the therapeutic aspect of trees. Now I'm gonna drag in, now I did not get this because of our research for today. I got this from my archaeology class, but not from my class, but from a journal article that came into my email, and I read it and I was like, this is perfect for our discussion. I don't know if you've heard of psychogeography.
No, I'm not
It's
familiar with that one.
I've never heard of it either. It's the study of how urban environments shape emotions, behavior, and experience.
Okay.
And at first I thought, what is this wacky thing? Like, did it just come out in the 2000s? No, it's been around since 1955. Of course, it was a French philosopher. Okay. Guy Debord.
Allez les bleus.
And, and he and his group, which were called the Situationists. So in 1955, they were reacting against this urban planning because it felt very overly planned, sterile, alienating. So it didn't feel like communal the way the cities were being worked. Um, and so they created this movement called psychogeography, and it encourages people to drift through neighborhoods. It's called dérive, French. So you drift aimlessly. There's no point. And you just experience the city. So trees, so it's very landscape focused kind of theory. So trees would be part of this landscape. They are considered psychogeographic contours. So the canopy down the street as you're walking, and it affects how you feel. There's a whole study around it. I never heard of it. Psychogeography. I
I've
thought it
never
was a
heard of
joke.
I've never heard of that exactly, but it makes me
Mm,
think of, and I have no idea if this is related or if it's a separate concept, but I remember hearing something that I thought just made a lot of sense, where when a building was built or erected, that instead of it like putting out all the sidewalks,
mhm,
like letting people figuring out what were the paths that people took most often, and then
mhm.
laying the sidewalks on those pathways. Sort of like a lot of the roads that
Oh,
were built, like, for example, Broadway. in New York was like it was a path that people walked and that
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
cattle was driven on and like it was an existing pathway that then became a road. And I know sidewalks are not the same necessarily as roads, but I just always thought that that made so much sense because it
Mm,
wasn't like, hey, don't ever build a sidewalk. It was just leave it there for a few months, figure out where people go,
hmm.
then put the sidewalks in those areas as opposed to building a sidewalk that nobody's going to use because they're not going that direction. You know, like
Yeah,
maybe it
yeah.
just goes all the way around because you might build too much sidewalk. You know, like you're having it go all the way around the building. Well,
Mm,
nobody's going all the way around the building, you know,
mhm.
or you have it go in the opposite direction of where, like, for example, the subway might be. Like just that aspect of it's not exactly
That's
drift, but
very interesting.
right. And I don't know how I heard about it. I don't remember
Mm,
where I read about it because it was a long time ago. But I just remember being like, that would be awesome. I understand that people get worried, the project's gonna linger, your people are gonna be in the mud. I'm like, but if you then built things that people actually used,
mhm,
I think they could
mhm.
hack it for a month or 2, you know? And then
Mm,
you built something that they actually needed. Um, the other thing that, again, it's tangential, but I think about is when, for example, they did curb cuts so that like wheelchairs could go across sidewalks
oh,
and streets,
yes,
curb
yes,
cuts,
yep,
right?
yep.
Um, but that particular effort might have been done with the concept or the idea of a wheelchair,
Mhm,
but it actually helps with strollers. It helps
mhm,
with people who are pulling carts.
mhm.
It helps in so many other ways, like people who are wheeling bikes. It is
Suitcases.
suitcases, yes. All of these various other things that are helped by something that
Mm,
when it was first talked about had like one use. And I just feel like our discussion of trees is similar to that in that if you could
mm,
get a marriage between not just where are you planting,
mhm.
but what you are planting and what the maintenance and upkeep plan is, then you could actually have something that works.
Yeah, and the impact of doing it correctly is
Huge.
multi whatever, sectorial, whatever you're gonna call it, ecological, public health, food, even food security, because, I read that there's a new thing called urban agroforestry. So they're growing trees and crops in urban areas together as like a
Well,
little ecosystems.
even when I first moved to New York City,
Hmm.
there were walking tours of by people who would forage in Central Park.
Yeah. Oh,
Now, I'm not talking about that they did all of their meals or anything there, but they're edible plants in the
yeah,
park,
yeah.
and they would
No.
show people, like, "This is edible, this isn't," and
Mm.
that was 26 years ago.
Mhm.
Like, there would be announced in, what was that magazine? What was that magazine Today, Tonight? I don't know. It was a magazine that all the cities had that said what was going on, and one of the things that was on there is you could
Time out.
time out, yes! And they would have walking tours was one of the things that would have, and one of them was foraging.
Hmm.
So, I'm not that surprised that there's what is it? Echo no, what do you
Urban agroforestry.
urban agroforestry. I hadn't heard that term, and I obviously
Mhm.
cannot remember it, but, I'm not that surprised about that existing because I think when we had our first discussion, I was like, I love the idea of fruits growing on trees. I
Mhm.
mean, New York has
Mhm.
been classified as like, I don't know, subtropical or tropical or something. There's a lot of fruit that can grow in that environment. Why not have the fruit? Let it be available to people, like, or the animals, the squirrels, the eagles, or I guess they're hawks. The hawks. I don't know about
Oh,
eagles, but there are hawks in New
I
York.
don't know. So this is very interesting because two things. So I mentioned the fungus network before we started.
Yes, yes, she
It
did.
is
She's got a
connected.
really cool
I'm
picture.
really excited about the fungal network, but that is one thing, and that's a new study that actually just came out June 11th. Um,
Ooh, wow,
yeah,
brand new.
it's a brand new thing. Um, not the network is known, but they've done some kind of cool graphics with it. The other thing, it came across my Instagram feed, and it's this lady, sorry, doctor, and her name is Suzanne Simard, and she is big into trees. And she's written books about it, and she teaches at, she's Canadian, at University of British Columbia. And she just came through my feed, and she was talking about her book and how trees are constantly, and I think you touched upon this, they're always communicating to each other constantly, either through the soil. So they're actually giving each other amino acids and sugars. And they're actually, she says, her theory is they talk to each other through the air even, and they're telling each other about whatever stress that they're under, any insect activity, pollination information. And she has this project, and she's identified something called the mother tree. So in each forest there's a mother tree. That's the big one within this network. It's the main tree. And that's the central node. I kind of just I watched her, and I watched a few other things about her, and then I Googled her, and I guess, like, she's quite famous in this world, trees. Not everyone agrees with that extra step of the tree talking to each other, but um, then coming into this fungal network.
Just before, because I want us to focus on the fungal network, I just
Oh, yes,
wanna,
I do too.
um, play off of the talking through the air,
Yes.
because even in energy healing stuff, when I've talked to people who have a lot of air in their astrological chart, like earth signs, I will often talk to them about the need to put their feet on the ground, like bare feet on the ground. If you can get it in the sand or in the dirt, even better. I will talk to water signs about like hands in the water. If you can be on like near water, like an
Mm,
actual ocean, large bodies of water, or a river or something, that is incredibly helpful. With fire signs, the physical activity is helpful, or get yourself in front of a fire, like have a fire, like
I
experience it.
love fire.
Air signs, I'll talk about feeling the air, but if there's no breeze, sometimes that can be hard. And so one of the things that I have found, and just
Mm.
being an air sign myself and I have an air sign moon, Western system, but even in the Vedic system, I am a Gemini ascendant, so air sign, um, is the trees. Is I just found myself spontaneously talking to a lot of air signs about go and hug a tree,
Oh,
touch
yeah,
the
that's your
leaves.
thing, isn't it? Yeah, you
It
like to do that.
is. But I've gotten feedback from people who thought I was completely, maybe not completely batty because they actually tried it, but they were like, "Okay, I don't know, I know what this will do," but they would go and do it, and they could feel all those things that they felt it. So they weren't getting their cortisol or their blood pressure checked after doing it, but their own sense of themselves after doing it was calmer, was having sort of been reset. And I don't have anything that backs her up, but I definitely do feel like not only do the trees communicate with each other, but I feel like they can, on a cellular level, communicate with us. So I
So
just wanted to put that out
I
there.
I don't hug trees, but I think I do have quite a bit of air in my
Well, you're an air sign, sun
I
sign.
am an air sign. Um, so the way and I just did it today, I need to go outside and prune. Like, that's my thing. That's my thing. It's my jam, and if I don't go out for a day or 2, I get antsy. And I but I do every day walk the perimeter of our backyard gardens because I we have a bunch of flowers and flowering trees and blah blah. And I have some herbs I'm growing, and sometimes it's a battle because of the bloody birds, but um, I need to engage with them every day on some level. And I talk to them like I'm just going around going, "Hey, how you doing?" And then I like kind of ruffle their little leaves, and because I feel like there's something there. I believe it. Um, I enjoy pruning for like an hour because it kind of distracts me. That's like a mental thing. And it's healthy also because we've got kind of overgrown shrubs and stuff. It's better for them. Um, so yeah, I don't do the tree hugging, but I am around them and
And I have
I
to
do
say
love it.
that my tree hugging is very few and far between. I don't get anxious that often, but I have my cortisol levels have to be pretty high before I actually go and hug a tree, but I will touch a tree, I will touch their leaves. The hugs are fewer and farther between. It's more of a concept than an actuality, but, yeah, I think that just being in communion with them
Mhm. Mhm.
is
And having a chat. You can have a
yeah,
chat with them. I mean,
my mom talks to
they're
all of
pretty
her
quiet.
plants,
Yeah,
like, even
I
indoors.
do. Yeah.
When she's watering them or pruning them,
Yep.
she has
Yep.
full-on conversation. She has this
Yep.
gorgeous, Christmas cactus. Now, I've heard that these things only bloom once. This thing blooms for my mom every few months. It
Wow.
is const yeah, but she talks to it, "Oh, look at my lovely, my beautiful." She talks to it like it's a baby.
I think they react to that,
I
actually.
think so too,
Yeah.
because let me just tell you, I kill plants, no matter how much I love them.
Are
I
you
have a black
interacting with
thumb.
them, though?
No,
Well, that's it.
I have a
That's why
black thumb.
you don't
I'm
you
not
don't engage.
I'm not consistent. Even when I have engaged, I've killed them.
Maybe they can sense your insincerity.
I think they sense that my attention is varied and easily distracted. And so they're like, "This one's not here for us." I mean, I've killed cacti.
Hard to do.
I've killed spider plants.
Overwatering. I think that's a big one.
I don't know if it was overwatering. I think one time I killed one was overwatering. I think one time I killed one was underwatering.
Lack of love.
Yeah. I would say that my tending is
Mhm.
intermittent, which is why it is much better suited to air sign humans.
You are an air sign human.
I am, but I tend to people who have air strategically placed in their charts
Oh,
much
here
better
we go.
than plants.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, more
That's what I mean.
specific there.
Which is yourself.
Yes, I do. They're like my friends. Kind of. Not totally. Like the herbs, sometimes it's like a love-hate situation, but we're getting there.
Mint. Should mint be planted in shade, in sun, or someplace where it gets both?
I don't have any mint. That's my next thing is mint.
I have a mint plant that I got at Trader Joe's that I always like mint near the
Ah,
door
mint's great.
because it
Mhm.
keeps some of the bugs away.
Mm.
But our front door is fairly shady, but there is an area with a bit more sun. So I'm just trying to figure out where to plant
I
it.
would put it in the sun,
Okay.
because they are kind of Mediterranean, so they like
Okay.
sun, I think.
I will put it in the sun then, in the area that
And
gets
when
some
they're
sun.
happy, they're very happy. Like they start growing like crazy. They're
I like
great.
that.
Yeah, it's great.
I like that. I'm gonna have to put a little stick out there so that we're in a condo association, townhome
Mm,
association that has, like, people
mhm,
who come in and tend to the gardens,
mhm.
and I think my last mint died. I think I'd planted it in the shade, to your point,
Oh, yep, yep.
and I don't know if it died or if they pulled it out not knowing what it was, so I
Oh
will have to
my
go in.
god, that reminds me. So short mint anecdote. When we lived in Korea, so we had this house on the embassy compound, and we had a garden, and we had this gardener, and we were there 4 years. And my mother had this almost like a little island of mint in the middle of the soil. And it was just by itself, and it had like a depression around it to delineate it, and it was like a bunch of mint. And we loved it because you can go and, clip it or whatever. And it smelled great. Then one day we came home and completely bare. There's no mint. Where's the mint? The island is gone. The gardener pulled it all out because he thought it was weed. The drama. God. Oh my God, the drama of it. I mean, it's not like we fired him or anything, but it was very, very distressing to half the family. The other half could not care less,
Would
AKA
that be your
dad.
dad and your brother?
Yeah, yeah. They're like, whatever, who cares? But my mother was distressed. I was distressed, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the advice on mint. Now I know where to put my mint. Fungal connector.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I was back in memory lane. Okay. Oh, that Mid Island. Okay. So, did you know? I didn't know this until 2 days ago, or yeah, one day ago. There is an underground fungi network, and it's called the mycorrhizal network. And evidently everyone knows about it. And they're very, very small fungi, and they're in the topsoil of the earth. And if you read this article in the Smithsonian, the study came out in the journal called Science on June 11th of this year. And everyone else is doing little articles off of it. And the Smithsonian is the most easiest to understand for my brain. Um, and it was saying that 500 million years ago, when the plants came out of wet environments and came up on land to start growing, they needed a little bit of help to adapt to soil. So these little fungi appeared. And ever since then, they've had this symbiotic relationship. So the fungi provide the nutrients, help give nutrients to the plants and trees, roots, and then the trees give them whatever, also sugar and whatever. This fungal underground network supports 90% of plants on this planet. And evidently, they know about it. I didn't know about it. Why would I know about it? But let me show you from very quickly from the article. The scientists did a visual projection to show you where all these fungal, like the coverage on the planet. And I have to say, it blew my mind, and I can't stop looking at this thing. Can you see that?
It's rather beautiful.
It's That's only a part of the planet. And I find it interesting. Obviously, some areas don't because that's more arid desert, um, and seas. But isn't that fascinating? They've done an infrastructure map. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Anyway, and no one pays attention to this fungal network, but actually, trees only can absorb 10% of the carbon on the planet. This fungal network can absorb 2 or 3 times that, but no one focuses on making sure that their ecosystem is okay or healthy or whatever. Everyone's focused on the trees.
Have they, I don't know if the journal article mentioned this, or not, but I'm wondering what is it that we would do or need to do to support the network and its
So it's these like grasslands that are being built up by people. It's the
Mhm,
usual, that kind of situation.
mhm.
Um, yeah, I think it's to protect it from that overdevelopment,
But to your
human
point, I don't
impact.
think most people who are part of planning groups know anything about it. And at least in the US, where capitalism is king, like, I don't know if there's an analysis yet of the cost benefit or the return on investment for making sure that those stay. I do know the need for wetlands, and I think that, for example, LaGuardia Airport is a great example. It was actually built on wetlands. They just put another $1 billion into it a few years ago, and it's
Mhm.
sinking.
Mm,
It's, like, literally sinking, and but it was originally wetlands that actually helped, and now
yes.
we look to have jets land on it, which actually deteriorate our
Mhm.
system. I
Mhm.
also so when we first moved, my family and I, to Washington State, we lived in Thurston County, which at the time was the fastest growing county in the nation. I recently read, again, I have to go back and look and see if I can find it, but I recently read that Hartford County is current where I live now, is currently the fastest growing county in the nation. And the reason I mention it is my mom was talking about there's a new building going up. There's a lot of new buildings that have gone up in
Mm.
our town. And people have been talking about, like, the greater infrastructure for, like, waste management, and it's not always just, like, your toilet and waste some of it's like there's a new car wash that was built, but there was no infrastructure for, like, over a
Mm.
year to help with the water that would be
Mhm.
an offshoot of that car wash. Um, but there's a huge building going up, and my mom's like, "How are they putting another one in there?" But when I heard you to mention that this fungal network is often connected to wetlands to a bit, I remember that area being moist, not I don't know if it would have classified as a wetland or just a depression. There's a number of small creeks and stuff, but I was like I was about to curse, but I was like, "That kinda sucks if it's actually causing a detriment to the overall environment of this area by putting a building on top of something that helps even more than trees to create
Yeah.
oxygen." And
I mean, this network's all over the place, and, you know, I don't know if there's that much thought going into urban planning. I just I don't know.
I don't either. I think you and I are always looking at things that could be studied. That that I mean, just not the urban planning aspect of it, but how much those who are doing or studying urban planning are thinking about these elements that are, growing elements within it, not just structural.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much effect humans have on the environment, and I it's not just, "Let's just put up a building." Like, there's a lot of ramifications to it, and what you're erasing in that process, okay, you need to erase it. Maybe you really need that building for whatever reason, fine. But there's gotta be some kind of mitigating something to mitigate or soften the impact of that building somehow. I'm sure there are. There's like gazillion people studying this kind of stuff. Um,
It'd be fascinating if somebody who's out there either studying urban planning or working as an urban planner had a few things to share with us. Um,
mm,
we'd love to talk to you. And Katie and I are looking at launching a series where we talk to other people who either have specific experiences or an expertise or
mhm,
offer an opportunity that we think might be incredibly helpful. So if you're one of these people out there, please let us know. We haven't started it yet, but we are continuing our early discussions with folks to see about bringing that to KTVG Studio and those of you who choose to watch.
yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to start interviewing people, get their personal journey, how they got to where they are, and then the amazing things that they're actually doing. It's inspiring, I think. I think there's a lot of amazing things. And I've said this before, like, I know social media is bad, has bad aspects to it, but I get so much interesting information. Like, I never would have known about this Suzanne Simard and her work with mother trees if I didn't have Instagram, because she was interviewed on Instagram. And I wouldn't have known about this fungal network, which is amazing, if I didn't have Instagram as well. So, I think it's great.
I'd say that 90%, like, so my mom's generation, all the folks I talk to from that generation still very much like watching the news.
Mm.
I find our US news, um,
I don't watch the news.
that rather negative and blighting, and, like, they'll have a 30-second report, or I'll be generous. They'll have a 3-minute report on one item of something that's good, and then the other 27, it's not even 27 minutes, but out of the 22 minutes that are not commercials, they'll have another, like, 19 that are like, "What is the most horrible, awful, horrendous thing that we can tell you about?" And I choose to get a lot of my news and updates. I still hear about some of the horrible things, but I don't have to spend a full minute on it, if not longer. Um, but I also get to read, like, I've started following some of these good news sites, like
Mhm.
on social media, where they talk about things like, I think one of the recent ones was Brazil has eliminated the, HIV transfer from mother to
Yes.
child. Like, they
Yep.
haven't had one in a long
Yep.
time. They talk about, reforestation efforts, and they talk about, uh, I'm blanking on who did it, but somebody has regrown cartilage in the knee, and I'm like,
Mm.
"These are the kinds of things, like, so that people wouldn't have to have knee surgery." Like, where they
Wow.
were having bone on bone, they've managed to regrow the cartilage in between, and so you avoid a surgery. And I
Wow.
think it was Japan, but I'm not sure. I could be very off on that. Might have been Korea. It's just I'm not remembering. But I love reports like that. Like, I like when you hear about good things and good, discoveries, or like the fungal network that actually, if we focused on it, we might get greater oxygen outputs. Um, I just love that kind of thing. I think it was one of those that told us about, was it Sweden? That had the prescription for the forest
Yeah.
fire,
Yes,
and, like,
yes, yes. Yeah.
like, it was one of those good news things
Mhm.
that we went to look, and Katie was like, "Yeah, they really do." I mean, you have to have doctor kinda has to write a prescription for it, but it's been shown, it's backed up by science, and it's helpful, and
Yep.
they allow
It's
it.
completely,
Yeah.
evidence-based. Mhm.
But it was one of those, and I love when we get news like that, you know, that is uplifting,
I think,
and
though, for me, social media is that,
yeah,
actually, because and I think because my algorithm, that's all it is. Like, it's like random things that I get that I like, and then it'll keep feeding me that. I'm very specific, I guess, with what I'm looking at. So for me, the Instagram is actually like a my good news feed.
yeah, and that's mine tends to be maybe not. I did a lot of stuff in the political sphere, so I do still get my Instagram because it's part of Meta and it's connected to my Facebook.
Mm,
I do still get political things coming through, and some of the political things are not necessarily the most uplifting in our current
no.
day and age. Um, but I would say, though, that the rest of it, like, the other thing I like about it is I can control how long I look at it. I can control how
Yeah.
much I read of it.
Yep.
Like, I'm not beholden to somebody on the other side of the screen deciding, "Oh, we're gonna keep talking about this topic.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep reminding you of it over and over again." throughout this broadcast because we find it gets the most eyeballs, I guess. Like, I think it's important, like, with the World Cup, I'm loving the funny social media where people are discovering aspects of the United States as an example, but also of Mexico and Canada, of places that maybe they would not have gone if it weren't for the World Cup, you know? And at least in the US, one of the major things they're discovering is the flavor of food, the differences. The Europeans seem to be really excited about free refills um, on beverages and understanding the need for ice. Like, I think that there was a lot of like, why do Americans constantly have ice? And then they came to places like Texas and Florida,
Mm,
and we're like, oh, we now understand why you want ice. It's a different temperature when it is not only a high temperature, but also a humid environment. Um,
I don't get any World Cup stuff.
you don't get any World Cup stuff?
Nope.
I think
You are
I
the
get
only person who tells me about World Cup stuff.
I think I get it because both my sister Nettie and my mom are into these things,
Mm,
and between that and the Mets, I do get baseball Met stuff. So I have at least a remotest idea of what my mom and my sister Nettie are talking about. Um, I started, but I got really interested in it because I was enjoying the funnies. Like my favorite one, and I sent it to Poochie in Hamburg, was the first one I saw of this was a German gentleman, and it's AI generated. So I'm not saying this happened. To
mm,
me, it was very obviously AI generated, but he'd come to the US for 6 weeks and he was returning home. But the picture in his passport was a fairly thin, buff dude. And the guy who's arriving, I think he's actually leaving the US. He's like holding a burger. He's got, which you couldn't go through security with any of this stuff. So another clue that it's AI. But, anyways, he's like ballooned up, completely ballooned up. And it's like, "This is not you." The passport person was like, "This is not you." And he's like, "Yes, it is. It is me. But you were only in the US for 6 weeks." "Yes, but the food, there's ranch. There's big sizes." Like, and all the things that we kinda know exist, and that, there was another funny lady who was talking about, the fact that a number of these people were gonna need enemas because even most Americans know that these places are not places that you go to, like, 3 different ones of them in a day.
mm.
Like,
Yeah.
maybe if you're on a road trip and your only option when you're stopping because you didn't pack appropriately is these places, but normally it's I mean, even the people who go regularly, it's once a day. And I would say for more people, it's, like, maybe once a week, if not once a
Mhm.
month. It depends on the person and what else is going on in their life and their age and stuff. But, yeah, there's a lot of these folks who are enjoying 3 meals a day at our large size, lots of extra sugar establishments. I just find it humorous. And the
Yeah.
Mets have been losing horribly, so I needed something that made me find funny.
Oh, right.
You don't have any sports I thought you watched
No.
racing.
Yeah, but I mean, only when I'm around people that watch Formula
Okay.
One. I follow who wins, and my most adorable little guy is winning at the moment.
Who's
Um,
that?
Kimi Antonelli. He
Okay.
is just adorable, and he's like 19. He's a
That's
baby, and
that's Marcos's age. That's my older nephew's age.
he's Italian, and he drives for Mercedes. He is the new this is his 1st year, I think, in Formula One, and he kind of rough start, kinda getting his groove, and he won the last 5 races, which is unfreaking believable
5 in a row?
for a rookie. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
and, he is I mean, but he is the adorable. He is just, like, adorable, and, I just I'm gushing over a 19-year-old child, but he's just like such a cute, and he's so nice. He's just like so happy to be there, and there's no ego, and he's just like, oh, so happy. And oh, he's got these little curls and like a baby face, and
I
just
think that's awesome.
adorable, really. Okay. Kimi Antonelli, everybody. Keep an eye.
Next time something comes across your feed, you gotta share with me because I have no idea who this person is.
I did when he won the 5th championship, I did repost, like, 6 things of him within a 5-minute period. Did you miss those?
I don't
You
see
didn't see
everything that
my
people
repost?
post, like,
Oh, I was a little bit embarrassed because it was, like, within 5 minutes, and it was all about Kimmy. Oh, well, I can absolutely forward it.
it's why I oftentimes DM, even though I might repost something, if it's something I
Mm,
wanna make sure you can see, I will also send it directly to you just because I don't see everything that other people post. Like, my mom will be asking, "Hey, Vici, did you see this?" I'm like, "Did you send it to me?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "Then no, I didn't see it." Like, and
to be fair, I didn't think you would care.
and completely valid. I have not followed Formula 1, but other than American football, I will get into just about everything else. Like, to a certain extent, I'm not a huge watch it on TV all that time. Like, my
Mm,
mom and my sister, when it comes to the opens, like the tennis opens, like, religiously watch my mom slow down on watching her Mets games because 'cause they're making her really sad. So, she oftentimes will balance
that's
that with
fair.
watching World Cup right now. But, she doesn't watch every single World Cup game, but there's certain ones that she's interested in. She will watch them. I think she watched last night's US versus Tunisia, I think it was, and the
How
US
did
lost.
Tunisia do?
US
Oh,
Tunisia was already
nicely
eliminated.
done.
Tunisia was already eliminated, but they beat the US in their final match, 3 to
Oh,
2.
that's so great. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to live in Tunisia for 3 years. This is the only reason why I'm going, "Oh, that's so
Yeah,
great."
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. The US had already made it to the next round. They were good, but,
Oh,
that
okay.
point differential, like, that could be a
Well, they
thing.
went out with a bang, I guess.
Tunisia did, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, who somebody has to go up against Brazil. I think it's South Korea. I think they've made it, but Brazil, I mean, again, I'm learning a lot about World Cup. I didn't necessarily know, but like I said, I can get on the bandwagon of just about anything as long as you're not asking me to, like, pay strict attention during the whole
Mm,
time. But I would go if the tickets were not so expensive, I would actually go to one of the matches.
yeah,
Um,
it's a killer.
I can't do those prices. Um, but, like, now I lost my train of thought. Obviously, it's not that critical. World Cup, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying all of the folks posting, and
I
I've
wonder
always
how
loved
Japan's doing. Do you
Japan
know?
has made it. I believe Japan has made it into the next round. I was
To
watching
be
there's somebody
fair, my friend has been sending me stuff, she's Japanese, and I have not looked at them.
there is somebody who, does all of the standings in Legos, and so I've been following him, which is how I've learned as much as I have about
In
what the standings are, so I
Legos?
yeah, Legos.
What is he doing?
Well, you know how they have the brackets?
Oh,
And
oh,
he'll
oh,
show
oh,
you
oh,
'cause
okay.
it's convoluted how the,
Oh, I see.
I'm trying to think of I was trying to find it 'cause it anyways, never mind. I can look it up for you later about where Japan is, but I thought they had made it to the next.
It's okay. I can ask the actual Japanese person because
There you
she
go.
seems to be following. I'm just ignoring her text messages. Anything World Cup, I'm like, I zoom past it to the actual is she saying about something else? So, um,
I, I feel that way when it comes to most of American football. I think about the only time I pay attention is Super Bowl, and this year it was all about, um, Bad Bunny performing for me, though I did
yes,
root
I
for the
saw that.
Seahawks.
Yes.
Having
I don't
lived
know
in
anything
Seattle
about. football.
Having gone to high school in Washington State, um, I'm I will support the Seahawks, if there's
You
but I
know what
won't.
is a weird sport that I've always disliked, but I actually sat through on TV, one, last year, cricket.
That can be long.
It's the one-day ones, because they
Okay.
have 2 different types of cricket. They've got the
Yes,
long
yes.
multi-day ones, and then they got the short ones because not everyone likes the multi-day ones. So these are the, uh, Super 100s or something like that. Anyway, we're watching England, Pakistan? I did not mind it. I was very surprised by my reaction because I even when I lived in Australia and it's quite a thing there. And it's played every Boxing Day, the Ashes, whoa. But I just cannot get interested in it. And I finally watched it last year, just a game on TV. And I thought it was not bad actually.
My discovery of the fact that I didn't mind cricket actually came through a movie in, like, 2001, which won Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars, Lagan.
Mm. Oh, I
There's
don't
a
know.
cricket game where the Indian folks end up beating the Brits in this movie, and it was awesome. And it's a 3-hour movie with an intermission, but, I loved it, and I discovered that cricket and baseball are not the same, but they have similarities.
Yes, they do have similarities. Yes.
And having grown up as a baseball girly, like, my family gets
Mhm.
what I call term baseball pneumonia, not baseball fever. They go way beyond fever. Um, I definitely have appreciation for the game, so I could watch a cricket
I think you
game.
could. And I
Yeah.
was interested in the scoring, and
Mhm.
I was getting it. I understood. Don't ask me now, I have no idea. It's left my brain. Now I've got
I
the
w I
fungal network in my head.
There you go. Um, was there something more you wanted to say about the fungal network?
No, that was it. I'll put all the resources so anyone who's interested can dig deeper.
Ooh, I think we have a new tagline for Katie.
You're
Dig
welcome.
deeper.
Dig deeper.
Well, I'm gonna do a wrap up. Um, Today we again, Katie and I have random conversations and decide, this is something neither of us really knows. Let's go see what we can find out about it. And trees, allergens, urban planning was where it kind of took us and started. But then we learned a bit more about the fungal network, which take out more carbon than the trees will.
But they need to
Um,
study it more to figure out more stuff about it. Watch
And
this
that's
space.
where we're landing in that it's a new study as of this year, as of this month. We're in June of 2026. And so we continue to learn. The scientists continue to learn. We may discover, or they may discover something else about this fungal network that
Mhm.
right now, none of us know. But it's this kind of ongoing learning and study that A, keeps us young, and B, keeps our brains sharp. So we hope you will be on this journey with us. And again, let us know if there's something you're curious about, but maybe don't want to deep dive into. Sometimes we
We'll
just
do
like,
it.
yeah, we like the search. And then Katie can dig deeper. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Bye.